All right, so this question here is asking us to determine the exact values for x and the equation here, x squared minus 8x minus 5 equals 0. And it wants us to do that by completing the square. Now, again, when we think about solving quadratic equations, there's a lot of different techniques or methods that we can use, like factoring, the quadratic formula, using a square root, graphing, and then there's completing the square. Now, really, the best time to use completing the square is when your b term is even, which we have here. Okay. Also, there's no coefficient on the x squared term, which is going to make our lives a lot easier. And if there ever was, like, say, a 4 here, I wouldn't even bother trying to complete the square. I'd probably much go straight to the quadratic formula. Now, first thing that I like to do, it's not 100% necessary though, is just to get rid of this constant term here, because that's not really going to affect me trying to complete the square. So I'm just going to actually push this to the other side. Okay. And right now I'm going to leave this here as x squared minus 8x is equal to, over here, 5. Now, how does completing the square work? Okay, the idea here is I want to take this incomplete quadratic equation and turn it into a perfect square quadratic. So what does that look like? It's going to look like x and something squared, right? Now, it's either a plus or a minus. The way that I decide is by looking here. It's minus 8x. So I say, okay, so I know this is going to have to be minus. The question is, though, what number do I stick here to complete this? Okay. Now, the easiest way to think about this here, okay, is I'm going to look at this b term here, and there's really just a formula for it. It's just half of this term. So if this is an 8, this guy here is 4. Again, it's literally just half. Okay, but now I say, wait a second. Are these two things exactly equal to each other? They're actually not. Okay, and if I look over here, what is x minus 4 squared actually equal to? That's x minus 4 multiplied by x minus 4. And if I multiply this out, x times x, x squared minus 4x minus 4x, negative 4 times negative 4. My last term is a plus 16. So this here is actually equal to x squared minus 8x plus 16, but that's not what I have here. I have x squared minus 8x. So this here actually has an extra 16 that isn't over here. So when we complete the square, the way that we balance it out or say fix it is I'm actually going to have to add 16 to the right-hand side of my equation. Okay. And again, the reason why I have to do that is because this part over here has that 16 that wasn't over here. Okay. Now, like mathematically, the trick is if I take half of it over here on the other side, I'm going to add the square of that number. Okay. So 4 times 4 is 16. At this point here, now I actually use completing the square to solve this. So I've got x minus 4 squared, 5 plus 16 is going to give me 21. Because I now have this x isolated inside of the radical, all I have to do is take a square root to get rid of it. Okay. What I'm left with now is x minus 4 on the left-hand side. On the right side, this doesn't simplify, so I'm going to leave it as the square root of 21. But don't forget, I now have that plus or minus. And my last step is simply to add 4 to both sides. So my answer here is x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 21. Now, if I want, I can also simplify that down into my positive and my negative square roots. So 4 plus root 21 and 4 minus root 21. So these here are my exact solutions. Now, again, remember it says exact values, so that means I don't want a decimal. If you actually take the extra step of sticking this into your calculator, writing out a decimal and rounding it, you're not going to get full credit. So make sure that you look at your questions and see exactly what they're asking you for.